Now, take a look at all of these images for a moment. I just did an image search for meditation. How many of these people in these, and I'm not condemning, obviously, the practice of meditation or these people. I've changed my opinion about meditation quite a lot over the years, and it's evolved to the point where I have my own twice daily meditation practice, and I'm a for life. I'm going to be a meditator. The benefits have just been amazing. But take a look at these photos and how many people are actually meditating here at all, right? I mean, they get points for looking the part and for being in a nice setting, but that's merely an idealization. And this is sort of an idolatry, right? This is what I'm talking about. When you think of meditation, for example, you might have an image like this come to your mind where you have a nice setting, maybe there's a waterfall in the background, and everything is just perfect. The lighting's perfect. You're in this amazingly, perfect posture. Look at everyone's body. It's nice and fit, and that's just not the reality, of course. Okay, so I can assure you that a regular, dedicated daily practice of meditation is far less glamorous, but paradoxically, it's far more beneficial and far more important than just trying to look the part. To actually go in and do the practice, the feeling inside is it's worth its weight in gold, and it'll transcend any sort of thoughts you may have about how you currently look and that sort of thing. Am I doing it right? Am I, all this kind of stuff. It's the sort of thing that you just need to start doing, and you can do that without trying so hard and getting yourself all tied up into knots. Okay. So don't be put off by appearances or popular interpretations. Find out for yourself what it's about. Okay. Find out for yourself. So then asking what is the occult is like asking for, it's really asking for someone to tell you the entirety of existence is to be explained. Maybe you expect that to be spelled out for you in like one paragraph or something, right? It just isn't possible. So neither is any sort of practice or, it's just an approximation. Meditation, again, just an approximation. Don't get hung up on whatever idol or image comes to your mind or whatever feeling it invokes. That is, that's happening at a very superficial level, and you need to really go deeper and figure out, okay, what does it mean for me? Because I guarantee you it's going to be different for different people. And on top of that, every meditation I've ever had is entirely different from the next one. I can't explain it. I'm not going to explain it. You need to discover what it is for yourself. Okay. So if you're trapped, and so what I'm talking about is being trapped in the matrix of words and surface level appearances that seemingly have a hold over so many people's minds these days, right? So we seem very obsessed with meaning to the point that our minds reduce everything down to something which is flat and one-dimensional, so that we can just easily label something, make our judgment about it, and then respond or act in accordance with whatever our current biases demand that we instantly conclude about something. It seems to be a very sad and superficial way to operate in the world, to allow words, meaning, or superficial appearances themselves to stop us at the gate, and we go no further into understanding something for ourselves. That's the whole point of this entire video. Of course, and I'm talking about trying to demystify the occult at the same time, which is a tall order. If you have this idol in your mind, if you have this image that comes up immediately, right, and you're believing that, or you're letting that stop you at the gate, well, maybe you should think about that. So this method for evaluation and thinking works for certain things which can be empirically observed in the world, but it completely breaks down in the realm of the spirit, the realm of the metaphysical, or the occulted. Okay. Now, the most widely popular conception or definition of what the occult means is given to us by the religious establishment in the first place. And the reason, because we know that for the longest time in Western civilization, it was religion, it was the Catholic Church, for example, that was the center of society. Everything flowed in and out of the church, right? So a lot of our understanding of the world, the definitions and that kind of thing, that only really started to change a little over, 150 years ago, maybe 200 years ago, which is a blink of an eye in the overall schema of the Western civilization. So the church's intention with defining the occult as evil was both to keep members of the flock from getting into trouble, which is true and a good thing, but also to prevent those who are ready to go to the next level from going their own way and possibly taking a large group of followers with them in the process, right? Because the idea is, of course, you want to keep your flock coming back every Sunday, keep the donations flowing, etc., right? There is indeed a business side of running any church, after all. Okay, there's a business element to it, so don't get confused about that. We cannot, and it isn't to say that there isn't a spiritual side and a sacred part of it. There is, but there's a business aspect. Let's be honest. We cannot deny that institutionalized religion, and especially the Catholic Church, is responsible for greatly shaping the worldview of Western civilization. And it's done so for a very long time, and the echoes of which are going to be with us for a lot longer. And subsequently, the allure of the occult for many is not to understand this open source of spirituality for better or for worse, but merely to stand in defiance and hold up a middle finger to the oppressions of institutionalized religion, which is a sentiment that I can understand, of course. Sadly, some never grow beyond this point, but in fairness, some do. And I'm not here to praise or condemn anyone who is on their own path, of course. We have only recently, in the past century, come out of this great shadow of influence and are now just seeing fairly recently the proliferation of Eastern religious ideas gaining in popularity in the West, as well as, of course, the large wave of atheism, which I'm seeing a lot turn to Buddhism. And of course, there's everything in between as well, which is to say there's a massive spiritual struggle happening right now in this world. There always has been, in case you haven't noticed. However, I'm not here to tell you my way is the right way or my way is the only path to God. But don't forget that before this recent time in history, quite a few religions emerged from this repository of open source spirituality or were simply inspired by other faiths. Any man or woman may have reached, so a man or woman that has reached certain levels of awareness which allow them to transcend, expand their consciousness, or become, I guess, what we would call enlightened. And people around them would sense this. These people would follow someone like that. So in a sense, if, let me give you a perfect example of how and why pretty much everything in the world is spiritual, and we do live in the spiritual realm. And I'll give you a perfect example. Like, for example, if you like someone on YouTube, because of how they communicate, how they look, how they sound, what they are about. They don't even have to have a religious... in fact, most people don't have a religious message. They don't have a spiritual message. But despite that, you like someone... Let's say you like a content creator and you just like everything, you like what you identify with what they're saying and that kind of thing. There's some sort of resonance that you have with them. It's deeply on an unconscious level, okay? It's essentially what it is. It's a spiritual transaction taking place. It's like a special bond between friends. You can't really put your finger on it, because if you did, you'd reduce it down to this one-dimensional flat thing, and it wouldn't have, it's the sort of thing that you can understand, but if you try to explain why you're friends with this person or why you have a special friendship with someone, if you try to really delineate it in words and explain it, it loses all meaning, okay? So in this sense, in the example of like a YouTube content creator that you follow that you like, you can view this as a spiritual endeavor as well, because you can't decouple spirituality from anything at a certain level of awareness. You can certainly try, or you can deny it, but I'll tell you, it's a sucky place to live. And I know that from direct experience. And some as recently as, let's say, like, so I'm going to go talk about, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of these really recent emerging religions. Like, for example, because, you know, someone who has a big YouTube channel, for example, they're not going to start a cult or a religion, or maybe they will. But if you know, in a sense, there's a spiritual connection between a content creator and their audience, right? There's just there just is. Whether it's religious or not, it doesn't matter. And so, for example, in the 1950s, I think of like Scientology, which of course seems like a gross defilement of and sort of a ridiculous, discordant amalgam of science and New Age BS just kind of munged together, right? Perhaps it's even perhaps Scientology even marks the final nail in the coffin for organized Western religion. I don't know. Which is, I guess, both a good and a bad thing, depending on which factors you're considering and how you look at it. And so many in the West and in the religious establishments get really nervous when there's an emphasis on the self above and beyond what God has planned for you, or what they say God has planned for you according to their religion. Because, you know, that sort of idea of the emphasis on the self is really not on the menu in the Judeo-Christian Western way of thinking. That's gaining in popularity, of course, now. So emphasis on the self, introspection, and exploring one's own being has been seen in the West as sort of a pagan or Eastern idea, in contrast to just religious obedience and emphasis on service to God. Nothing wrong with either of these, as long as we're talking about, as long as your morality isn't all backwards, as long as you are, you know, I've met good people of moral high standing from all faiths and all parts of the world, and there seems to be a common overlap, irregardless of your specific religion. There are some key differences, but there is, you know, let's say, for example, like the Noahide laws or the Ten Commandments, something in that area where there's a lot of overlap. There is morality that kind of, that I feel like can transcend this this area where you don't have to have someone dictating, you must do this, you must do that. You can kind of figure that out through life experience. You can kind of intuit that from religion in the first place, and then you can kind of take that to the next level. You don't have to stay at that level. So this brings us to a divide between institutionalized religion, where you must, and I'm talking about, you know, what leads people into studying occult wisdom, and it is this emphasis on self or discovery of your own being, discovery of higher levels of awareness. So there is a divide between institutionalized religion that don't want you to go there because they want to control that part of it, okay, and tell you how it's done. They don't want you to discover that for yourself, okay? So they want you to do what you're told as set forth by your subscribed spiritual institution versus, of course, the more DIY approach to spirituality of the East, where there are religions. You can be an adherent to however many different religions there are, and that's fine. But you can also go sort of your own way, but you're going to be parallel to those other religions in terms of morality, in terms of, how you treat people, how you operate in society. There's all of these parallels, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. So the rules are not so clearly defined for those of us that are doing the DIY spirituality route, okay? Obedience and purity are not as heavily emphasized, but at least to me, I feel like morality, ethics, those sorts of things are integrity, honor, those things are vitally important. Discipline is another very important thing. So I think, you can be a good person and study the occult, and you can do good things for yourself and for others, and not necessarily have to be a subscriber to any specific Western religion. Now, one emphasis being more on the Western religion side, we have an emphasis of things being more outward facing, where we're looking to the book for the answers, or we're looking to the rabbi, or we're looking to the priest for the answers. And of course, the other emphasis is inward facing. It's often considered a cult, just going within, even though, of course, Jesus did say that the kingdom of heaven is within. That little part, though, is often swept under the rug, unfortunately. Now, also about Crowley, this is young Aleister Crowley here. I have to say that Crowley and his own sort of invented religion should be viewed as training wheels also. That's how I look at it. The same as any other organized religion, because the second you jump the shark of your own spiritual experience, which is primary, which is wonderful and where you should be, the second you go from that into, okay, I'm going to share this. Now you can share your vision, but I'm going to, and it's often not the person who creates, the person who has the vision. That's not the person who starts the religion. It's the people around them that are a little more business minded. It's like Jesus didn't start the Christian religion. Some say Christ was the last Christian to die on the cross. That old saying there. But it's often the opportunists that are surrounding this enlightened figure or this person. I'm not saying Crowley was enlightened, because I don't think he was, but you have to develop your own sense of understanding instead of just doing it mechanically by the numbers, reading from someone else and going, okay, this sounds good, I'm going to do this. The real goal is to form your own personal relationship with the divine, your own understanding of your inner dimensions. That's kind of the whole idea. And the second it gets institutionalized and gets turned into a book, and then a movie, or what have you, then you've kind of lost the plot a little bit. Again, there's no shame, and you're not to be condemned for following any specific religion, because a lot of people need that. There are creative, and there are so many different factors. There's creative reasons. There's just dedication, discipline, learning. You have to have crazy amounts of energy sometimes. There's a lot of factors that lead someone to be able to kind of go into their own, to kind of transcend into their own realm of spirituality where they have this direct experience. And it's understandable that not everyone can, wants, or has the time or has the energy, etc., etc. So religion is very, very important, but at the same time, if you are dedicated And if you are putting in the work, and if you are putting in, if you do have the discipline, and you really feel like, hey, this feels right and this is the way to go, then make sure you have a strong foundation. Then build your house and go into your own understanding. So that's kind of the whole point of this here. And that's really, for me, that's how I see occult study and occult wisdom, is sort of this, listen, there's a framework, there's morality, there's integrity, there's all these wonderful values and virtues that are there for a reason, and many different religions will tell you all about them, and all of them are pretty much correct. There's a lot of overlap there, but at the end of the day, there's this middleman between you and the divine. Well, you don't have to forsake the middleman completely. You don't have to cut the middleman out of your life. I'm not saying that, but you can have that direct relationship with the divine, going into direct experience for yourself. So now, of course, emphasis on the self is where we get into trouble in the eyes of Western religion. That's the road to Satan, right? That's the road to the devil. And I would agree that most people, to be honest, most people lack enough structure, and they could probably find themselves misled. So you have to be very careful. And I'd be the last one to tell you, because I wrote a book on my member site, How to Understand the Occult. But I'll be the last to tell you that you, in fact, in the book, I say several times, don't believe anything I'm telling you. Just use that as a frame of reference and then go and investigate it for yourself. You have to investigate it for yourself. That's the difference. Now, because the emphasis on the self without any kind of framework or supporting structure that's provided by the institution of religion includes a strong sense of community and traditions, yes, that will surely lead a lot of people to destruction if you go completely your own way and you don't have a sense of belonging, you don't have a sense of community. So you really need to know what you're doing, and you got to be careful. Now, there's a lot of truth to the warnings issued by religions and why they're so paranoid of all this occult stuff. I totally get it. Just look around. Those whom are not part of a strong support system, like the kind that's provided with religious communities, are no doubt more prone to be isolated and untethered to any strong sense of identity and belonging. I mean, in a very real sense, not for everyone, of course. I'm not saying this is the case for everyone, but in a lot of ways, without that kind of structure, without a focus on virtue and morality, it really is a Darwinian hellscape out there, in case you haven't noticed. So, however, those who are disciplined and are motivated by the harmony of their inner life and personal relationship with the divine have much less of a need for a middleman. Now, I still have a need for structure, for a sense of community, a sense of belonging. Those are all important things for any human being. But in the West, this condition may not be typical. I understand that. It certainly is a reality for a growing number of people. So I'm not saying because this is my path, you should do this too. And just because you might like what I have to say and you appreciate my work, maybe be honest with yourself, know yourself enough to assess accurately whether or not, should I continue to be part of this of a church, or should I go out and seek? Maybe I should start out being a member of church and then see how it goes from there. That sort of thing. So I'm not saying you need to follow my path. The worst thing you could ever do is believe what anyone when someone tells you, this worked so great for me, therefore it will work good for you. How could I possibly say that with any honesty? I don't know you. I don't know I haven't lived your experiences, et cetera, et cetera. The person who knows best is you. So you have to decide these things for yourself. And it's a very careful, deliberate process, and you build on it just a little bit day by day. Okay, so that's my disclaimer for you. If you like what I have to say, and you want to go deeper into your own spiritual practice, I'm not going to tell you every little thing, and I'm certainly not going to write some kind of manual that says you need to do it like this and this and this. I can make recommendations, some things that work for me, but at the end of the day, all of our experiences are our own, and our inner world is, well, it's known best by ourselves and nobody else. So that's why no organized group, including myself, can really tell you. I can kind of give you some pointers, and there may be some things here and there that you can go, oh, okay, you can really key in on, and you can try it for yourself and see, does this help things or does it not? Is this something that is beneficial or is it not, right? That's for you to decide. It's not for me to tell you this is good and it's going to work for you, because that would be BS. So it's not an easy path, okay? Trying to go in your own sort of your own way, while at the same time respecting. So the path of the occultist is to go their own way, but also to understand, to respect, and even admire other faiths, which I very much do. But it's not an easy path, and it's something that I am constantly growing into day by day. In fact, I observe the Noahide laws myself. You may want to look that up if that's of interest to you. And I often listen to the wise words of rabbis on various subjects. So I'm not Jewish. I wasn't raised Jewish or anything like that. But that's just, that's what speaks to me. There may be some other type of, there may be someone else from another organization that speaks to you. There's so much overlap between faiths, and that it doesn't mean anything to me as far as what this religion is or that doctrine is. It's the kernels of truth that are hiding in plain sight that are that's what you need to be looking for. You need to be looking for the occulted elements behind the facade, right? That's what I'm getting at. So to those who maintain their own spiritual discipline in some way or spiritual practices, having a personal relationship with God are among the group, such as myself, of we're like these pesky nonconformists that often throw everyone else for a loop, or at least a lot of people. We seem contradictory and confusing, both to the religious and the atheists alike. And I'm definitely one of those people. Confusing and contradictory as I may seem to those on the outside looking in, I really, truly wouldn't trade the peace and harmony that I experience for anything. And so I'm here to tell you that there is a middle path, a way in which you don't need a middleman, you don't need a broker between yourself and the divine, yet you can respect and understand those that do, and even admire those people. There are many paths that lead to the same place after all. However, institutionalized religion is just not for everyone. It's certainly not for me. So you're free, or at least you should be free to decide for yourself. However, in my experience, the only way to discover the truth or falsity of even what I'm talking about is to explore your own being and find out directly for yourself. This can be done without depending on me or anyone else to tell you anything. Yes, you need a structure. Yes, some training is required to focus, to meditate, and to sit calmly and observe. However, it takes less effort than you may realize. However, in addition to this, one must cultivate discipline. Discipline is very important, okay? You can't just declare yourself a good person, a spiritual person, and completely lack discipline or just have be a moral relativist or some of that garbage. You can't do that. You really can't. You really do have to be religious about it, which sounds crazy. It's paradoxical. It's confusing. I realize that, but you have to be, I mean, I don't know any other way to describe it, but you have to be religious about your discipline, even though you're not going to be subscribing to any certain doctrine per se. Morality, virtues, all that stuff that seems common to all of the religions out there, there's a reason for that. It's not by accident, okay? So, in closing, I just want to say, life is neither fair nor easy, but it's worth exploring your spirituality as deeply as you can, because, we need all the help we can get. And as human beings, it's a tough world to live in, but if you can cultivate a spiritual firsthand relationship with your inner being, you don't have to refer to it as anything you don't want to. You don't have to think of it anyway. And again, I don't have this idol in my mind when I say words like occult or God or that kind of thing. So to me, it's just this wonderful golden light, and I don't really take it any further than that. And so, if you managed to make it this far into the video, thanks for watching. And if you have any questions about this topic, if you need clarification, or if you just want to tell me I'm worshiping the devil and I don't realize it, you're free to say that too. Don't hesitate to leave your comments or questions. And as always, please like and subscribe. Oh, and also, if you do enjoy my work, check out my website at ReInstallPaul.com if you'd like to learn more and support my efforts. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next one.